This is CBC Windsor. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer LaGrassa. Katarina is away. It appears Ontario is not on track to hit its climate change targets with less than 5 years to go before an important deadline. That's according to provincial civil servants who warned the new Environment Minister of the problem. Queen's Park reporter Sean Jeffords has the story.
We have a plan, and the plan is working. We are on track to meet the target by 2030 of reducing the 2005 levels of greenhouse gas emissions by 30%. We're doing that by leading Canada.
Ontario Environment Minister Todd McCarthy earlier this month under questioning from opposition critics. He said Ontario will meet its climate change targets. A statement that comes as Ontario grapples with forest fires, rising temperatures, and severe storms made worse by climate change. But McCarthy's comments in the legislature contradict an internal warning he was given in March by civil servants. According to briefing notes obtained by CBC News through a Freedom of Information request, they say Ontario is not on track to meet its climate change targets by 2030. The province will miss that goal by 3 megatons of emissions, barring any changes over the next 5 years. Tabbins says he asked the minister about the targets because he was concerned Ontario wouldn't meet the mark, and slammed the minister over the contradiction.
I don't know whether he reads his briefing book. I don't know whether he was simply being dishonest in the legislature. But either way, that's a real problem.
Ontario's Green Party leader says the government climate plan doesn't go far enough.
The reality is Canada is on fire right now, and the Ford government is like an arsonist pouring more fuel on the fire, and the people of Ontario are paying the price for it.
Environmental groups say the Ford government has made achieving the targets more difficult with its policies since 2018. They're calling on the province to correct course so it can hit the targets.
The Ford government came in, they killed the carbon pricing, they killed most of the climate programs. They've been hell-bent on building new highways, and they canceled all the renewable energy contracts.
I think if the government hopes that this will go away, it's a really big miscalculation, and it's really underestimating just how, I think, upset my generation, and certainly the next one is, at how on all fronts we are going to pay the high price for this government's policies.
McCarthy's office declined an interview request from CBC News. It did say in a statement that Ontario leads Canada in emissions reductions, but did not directly respond to questions about the contradiction between the minister's statements and the public service's warnings. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
The Windsor-Essex Catholic District School Board has passed a balanced budget for the upcoming year.
It is certainly excellent that we're seeing a balanced budget this year. We certainly have our pressures financially. The ministry can never fund education enough. The more money they want to put forward, the more programs we can offer. But we have done an amazing job. Our administration has done an amazing job of working with restricted funds and coming up with a very good result, a balanced budget.
Top priorities in the nearly $350 million budget include student mental health and special education. About 780 new students are expected to enroll in the board next year, bringing in an extra $10 million in provincial funding. Meanwhile, the public board, the Greater Essex County District School Board, is struggling with a $1 million deficit. That board says the province is not adequately funding them for key obligations like busing. The board also expects that enrollment will drop by more than 900 students next year. A heat warning has ended for our region, but those high temperatures really left their mark, specifically on a section of Highway 402 in Lambton County, which buckled under the heat.
When concrete is poured, they put saw cuts into the concrete to allow for expansion. However, when it's extended periods of hot weather, the concrete will continue to expand, and thus, because it's a rigid pavement, a rigid material, it basically has nowhere to go, so it will buckle.
Because if the concrete pushes upwards, it can cause bumps that can blow out tires. The damaged sections of Highway 402 have now been fixed and have reopened. Colette Kennedy is here. Colette, what are we looking like out there?
Yeah, so finally getting a little bit of a reprieve from the heat, but we're going to find those temperatures building once again, not like what they've been with the heat warning the last 3 days or so, but still they will begin warming up again. We've dropped a bit. We've got rain showers and some thunderstorms in the area. Otherwise, there's still some upper 20s there into parts of Ontario and some of that cooler air trying to move in. We basically had a cold front that sags south of us. It's kind of pushing back as a warm front, and along the boundary is where we're getting a little bit of this activity. So still some of that into the evening hours, and then overnight we will see things drying out. 20 degrees for the low, and tomorrow back up to 30 degrees, feeling like close to 38.
Thanks, Colette. An update now on the Gordie Howe International Bridge. The U.S. crane is scheduled to be removed next month. The Canadian crane was already taken down in May. This is just one of many final steps happening in the next few months before the bridge eventually opens.
The tall construction crane, which hit almost 800 feet high, was deconstructed back in May, and then a process is now underway to start deconstructing the major tower that's over on the U.S. side. And that really is a sign of the progress that we're making. That means that the tower construction is complete, and we're moving on to other types of work within the project site. We have work going on across all 4 of our project components on the bridge, at our 2 ports of entry. While our buildings are constructed, a lot of work is happening inside the buildings.
The Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority says work on the deck of the bridge is ongoing. Crews are adding fire systems, pavement markings, and lighting. There will be lights for safety purposes, signs, and directing traffic, as well as more than 5,000 aesthetic lights. There's no confirmed date yet for when the bridge will open, but we're told everything is on track, and it's likely that the bridge will open this fall. Haunting Tales of Southwestern Ontario will be featured in a new TV series. It's going to explore the urban legends of Windsor-Essex scary past. Our video producer, Darren DiCarlo, caught up with the director to get all the details.
Season 1 of Strange Tales of South Shore is going to have 4 episodes. Each episode is a unique urban legend. So some you may be familiar with, some maybe you haven't heard of before. If you grew up in this area, I'm sure you've heard of the legends surrounding Texas Road. That's one of our episodes. We're also tackling the Baldoon Mystery out of Wallaceburg, Canada's oldest haunting based in 1829. We're telling the story of Jessie, a ghost nun from Chatham, and the little-known story of Smiley, the magician of Boblo Island. People are always drawn to stories that are familiar to them, right? So if you grew up going to Boblo Island, maybe you saw this magic show, or maybe you saw a different magic show in that same theater, and now you hear, oh, there's a legend associated with that. Well, that's interesting, right? I love Boblo myself. I was fortunate enough to go probably the year right before it closed as a young kid, and had very fond memories of taking the boat over and thinking it was the best day of the whole summer, right? So I'm just as thrilled to be making this as someone who hopefully is going to be excited to watch it. Oh, there's a ton of stories to keep this series going on. We could do multiple seasons, even just in Windsor, Essex. There's, stories from old Sandwich Town. There's stories from Pesh Island. Obviously, everyone knows of the Windsor Hum. That would make a great episode, right? So, and then we expand to Chatham, to Wallaceburg, to London. We call it the South Shore. It's everything along the Great Lakes. There's no shortage of interesting stories.
A heat warning was issued for parts of Nova Scotia Wednesday, with humidity making the high temperatures feel even worse. Heat alone can be dangerous, possibly even deadly, but then combine it with the wildfire smoke and the risks get higher. Shayna Luck explains how a new study connected the two and what you can do to stay safe.
They smelled it before they saw it.
It's not the most common way that fires are discovered.
A brief evacuation after provincial staff went on patrol just east of Halifax and followed their noses to a small wildfire. This time, a helpful early warning sign. But with wildfire smoke across parts of Western Canada and rising temperatures and heat alerts in the east, new research is warning of the increased risk to health when heat and smoke hit at the same time.
Your body's just got a lot going on, so it's not surprising that when we combine those two exposures, they're riskier than either exposure alone.
The study looked at 21,000 deaths in the Vancouver area over more than a decade. Heat is the bigger danger. But layer on smoke, and the study found the risk of dying goes up 8%. That's compared with days that are neither hot nor smoky. People with pre-existing health conditions are most at risk. But a McMaster University respirologist says more research could be required to find out why.
Why does, heat potentially make smoke inhalation worse or, have more health effects? That's where we can then really get into giving very specific advice and changing practice.
Researchers do know kids, seniors, and pregnant women are at risk. So are those who can't take shelter at all.
It very much does bother me because I have asthma.
An extra danger for those living on the street.
The heat is really illuminating these cracks in our system, these real gaps that people have challenges that will go well before and beyond the heat waves that are playing out across the country.
When it comes to dealing with hot, smoky weather, experts say make sure you have a place with cool, clean indoor air, even if it's just one room in your home. And if you don't have access to that, try to keep cool while outside. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
A new study suggests childhood vaccination rates have stalled or even declined globally, but those gaps depend on where you live. Some vaccine-preventable diseases like measles have already made a resurgence in Canada, and as Jennifer Yoon reports, experts worry even more could soon follow.
At the Saskatoon Refugee Clinic, part of the job is offering childhood vaccinations to newcomers who need them.
We don't see a lot of vaccine hesitancy.
It's crucial work.
Patients that we see are from regions in the world where the vaccination coverage is a little lower.
In fact, that appears to be happening around the world, including here in Canada. According to a new study published in The Lancet, vaccination rates against diseases like diphtheria, measles, and polio have slowed or declined since 2010. Researchers estimate 15 million children missed out on key childhood vaccinations because of the pandemic, and rates haven't rebounded since.
In some places around the world, they're related to conflict, they're related to geopolitical instability, they're related to supply chain issues. In many high-income countries, they're related to vaccine misinformation and hesitancy.
Researchers warn lower uptake will lead to outbreaks of preventable diseases. Canada is already seeing a record-breaking measles outbreak. One solution, targeted vaccination campaigns for vulnerable populations.
They live together in bunkhouses, they work together in enclosed areas.
For instance, migrant farm workers who aren't already fully immunized, working in areas being hit hard by measles.
We saw a huge uptake among migrant farm workers through this voluntary program.
But researchers say the situation won't fully turn around until health authorities start convincing those who won't get vaccinated.
So new strategies are needed to encourage people to listen to trusted and reliable voices, including their healthcare providers, about vaccination.
The World Health Organization has set certain targets for 2030. Researchers say achieving those will take a huge push from governments around the world. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
The NATO Leaders Summit in the Netherlands has wrapped with a historic new agreement. Member nations agreed to a dramatic increase in their defense spending, more than doubling their previous target of 2% of GDP to 5% by 2035. For Canada, that amounts to $150 billion per year. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the spending hike is needed to confront current and future threats against the alliance.
If we want the world of tomorrow to be shaped by our values, Canada must be ready. If we want a more secure world, we need a stronger Canada that works with our allies, and today is a very important step to build both.
Donald Trump had made a spending increase a condition of continued U.S. support for NATO, but member nations have agreed to review the new 5% target in 2029, the year Trump is slated to leave office. Canada has battled multiple wildfires already this year, and it's not alone. The Greek island of Chios has been experiencing the same. We're now getting a true scale of destruction after wildfires scorched more than 4,000 hectares of land in 3 days. Drone footage shows the aftermath from the fires that broke out Sunday. Windy conditions only really made it harder. A woman suspected of discarding a cigarette and triggering one of the blazes was charged with unintentional arson. We've got more news coming up. Stay with us. A small community west of Ottawa is being warned to keep a close watch over their children. It comes after an 8-year-old girl was found with serious injuries on Tuesday. Police suspect she may have been attacked by an animal. But as Nicole Williams reports, they're still not certain exactly what happened.
Police and wildlife officers searched the woods in Quaidville, Ontario, about 2 hours west of Ottawa. The forest here is dense, but inside is something they suspect is behind a vicious attack.
People are, they're frightened.
That's because an 8-year-old girl went missing on Monday. She had been out with friends, last seen in this area. It prompted a community-wide search. Ontario Provincial Police bringing in search dogs, finally tracking her down in the forest in the early hours of Tuesday. And when they pulled her out, discovered she was seriously hurt.
We're not releasing the specific details of the injuries. They were very traumatic. In the initial stages, they did appear to be life-threatening injuries.
OPP not clear on what did this to the little girl, but suspect she was the victim of an animal attack, issuing a warning to those living nearby: keep a close eye on small children or even have them stay inside.
Could we be being overly cautious? Perhaps. If it was a wild animal, perhaps it's left the area, but we don't know that.
It's alarming, but it's understandable. Anything can happen. You know, if a young girl, young boy goes walking and they don't know where they're going and they get mixed up.
As for the little girl, she was brought to a nearby hospital where she was made stable enough to then be airlifted to the Children's Hospital in Ottawa. The family's passed her with them there while she underwent surgery.
I think it's important for people to know that the doctor did use the word miracle. She did say that it was a miracle that she was alive.
Officials say an investigation into exactly what happened is ongoing. There will be DNA testing to determine if and what kind of animal may have been behind the attack. The residents in this area say they are both extremely relieved that this little girl was found alive, but their minds are far from being put at ease. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Quaidville, Ontario.
New housing numbers have been released by Statistics Canada, and they show prices remain high in big cities compared to before the pandemic, but they're heading in the right direction, for renters at least. Nisha Patel has the details.
Vancouver is the most expensive city for renters. A two-bedroom apartment there costs more than $3,100 a month. Toronto coming in a close second. Still, compared to a year ago, rents are lower.
I currently am getting a deal and I'm never going to leave.
I think there's less demand.
In a new study, StatsCan tracked asking rents to get a better picture of the current market. In Vancouver and Calgary, the average rent for a two-bedroom apartment dropped 8% in the first 3 months of this year, compared to the same time a year ago. Toronto and Halifax saw a 6% drop.
We are seeing rent declines through a combination of increased rental supply. New rental stock has come onto the market over the last few years, coupled with the decrease in population growth. So you're seeing increased supply, reduced demand, and that is translating into lower asking rents.
As landlords scramble to fill vacant units, some are turning to tactics like move-in bonuses. So renters may find now is a good time to shop around.
There's so many rental incentives right now, including, 1 to 2 months of free rent, or there's some housing providers giving, $500 gift cards. So those are some things to really take advantage of at the moment.
But even with the recent cool down, rents are still steep compared to pre-pandemic levels. In Montreal, rent for a two-bedroom apartment is nearly 71% higher than in 2019.
It is a big chunk of my salary, and because it's a big chunk of salary, your mind is always there that what if the rent increased, what would I do?
It's getting ridiculous at this point because at some point people will not be available to afford it.
Over the past few years, governments have introduced measures to boost rental housing construction. Experts say with greater supply, rents could continue to fall. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Your full weather forecast is coming up. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back. Colette, a few of us here in the office play on a volleyball team on Wednesdays, and we've almost consistently had just rainy weather. And it was almost looking the same earlier, but now we've got some sun coming out, so I'm excited.
Yeah, some of the active weather, well, we'll take a look at the radar in a moment here, Jennifer, but some of the active weather is kind of winding down, or at least staying south now as we get into the later evening hours. So we should get things kind of drying out and get a nice break there. The ground might be a little bit wet in spots, so the temperature was cooled down, though, with some of that activity. Chatham-Kent, though, still sitting at 26. And, hey, travel a little bit further east. Kitchener at 29. Yeah, some readings there still in the 30s. And humidex values, it's just that they're not nearly what they were the last few days, right, when we were well into the 40s. So it is still warm, but much more comfortable. There's a little bit of that active weather, and if you go back, this is a 3-hour loop, go back to the beginning and you see all the blue, the lightning strikes on here, right? And then as it tracks east, they're getting weaker and the precipitation lighter. Now there's still active weather further south. That cold front kind of moved through, and now the warmer air south is pushing back, so a warm front is starting to try and ride northward. But here's a closer look. Lakeshore, still some wet weather there, but that's drying out and moving on as well. And at least back due west, things looking good. So I think volleyball and any other activities this evening will be doing pretty good as that dries out. But we do have to look at our rain chance as we move forward in time over the next few days. A bit of energy as the system tracks in from the northwest. And with that coming in, Thursday, especially in the afternoon, again, kind of seeing a repeat of this. A few areas could locally get some heavier downpours in there with some embedded thunderstorms. And then as we ride into Friday, starting off on the drier side, but it's the same kind of thing that as we move through the day and get into that heat of the afternoon, we see triggered some scattered showers or scattered thunderstorms coming back into the forecast. So think about that for the next couple of days. In between, though, lots of dry conditions and even from time to time some sunshine, but we could see those amounts. You have to get hit by one of these thunderstorms to get these locally higher amounts, but then pushing up towards that 20 to 40 or even by the time we get to Friday night, over 45 millimeters of rain. Lows tonight, pretty comfortable. High teens to 20 degrees for Windsor. Thursday, back to 30. Humidex around 38, so near 40, but the humidex will stay around 40 as we move forward in time towards the holiday on Tuesday.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
And thanks everyone for watching. Have a good night.
Good night.